evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
And I'm Pauline Verzosa.
The big stories tonight. It seems the bombshell of Batangas Congressman Leandro Leviste is backfiring as more officials question his claims and intentions in blowing the whistle on allegedly questionable public works insertions.
And we have another survey on our hands that shows Vice President Sara Duterte being the more trusted and approved top official than President Bongbong Marcos. Now, what could this mean for an administration facing a massive corruption scandal?
And we're learning more about the so-called runaway bride who got a lot of people guessing and whose disappearance remains a mystery until now.
Wala po akong ibinibid na Congressman Leviste dahil wala akong personal knowledge on that.
Right.
So ang kailangan na lang po dyan ay talagang malaman, maimbestigahan kung paano nga ba niya nakuha yung files.
The so-called Cabral files were not freely given to Batangas Congressman Leandro Leviste. Staff members of the late Public Works Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral claim these were forcibly taken from her office and they have photos to prove it.
Now, a congressman says if this is true, Leviste may face an ethics complaint for his actions. Mobile journalist Arles de los Santos has tonight's big story.
Since December 24, Batangas 1st District Congressman Leandro Leviste had been revealing pieces from the so-called Cabral files. He had even asked Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon to authenticate the said documents and later on posted them on his social media account. This opened Leviste to criticisms over the authenticity of the alleged files in his possession. Some are insinuating that he acquired the documents forcibly from the late DPWH Undersecretary Catalina Cabral, rendering the alleged evidence as inadmissible. Leviste had since maintained that Cabral gave him the documents voluntarily and that Secretary Dizon had authorized his visit, a claim which the Public Works Chief has denied. A staff of Cabral has now surfaced, debunking Leviste's story. Footage from the DPWH on September 4, the day Leviste said Cabral gave him the documents, put Leviste in the location. It showed the neophyte lawmaker entering Cabral's office, then both headed to another office. At past 6 in the evening, CCTV recorded Leviste and Cabral leaving the said office with the legislator having documents in hand. What was not seen supposedly was the manner which Leviste got hold of the documents. Cabral's staff said these were forcibly taken by Leviste from Cabral. Pictures of Cabral's bloodied fingers allegedly proving the action also surfaced. But Leviste says it again. He legally obtained the DPWH files. He also questioned the motive behind the release of the photos, saying it only raises question on why the DPWH won't release Cabral's files. But for Malacanang, this matter warrants an investigation.
Na unang-una kasi, syempre kapag kukuha ka ng dokumento, dapat voluntaryo yung pagbibigay sa'yo. Kasi kung pinuwersa mo to, so maaari ka pang gumawa ng mas illegal na bagay dahil nagawa mo na mang-agaw ng dokumento. But wala po akong ibinibid na Congressman Leviste dahil wala akong personal knowledge on that. Right. So ang kailangan na lang po dyan ay talagang malaman, maimbestigahan kung paano nga ba niya nakuha yung files.
In his latest revelation, Leviste claims even Dizon had insertions or allocables for flood control projects under the Basis Conversion and Development Authority. Dizon headed the BCDA during the Duterte administration. The DPWH has issued a statement saying Dizon categorically denies the baseless and malicious allegations by Leviste. It also questioned the timing of the accusation as it came right after the revelation of Cabral's staff. In a separate statement, the BCDA also denied having flood control projects funded through budget insertion as no such fund exists in the agency. Aside from what could be a brewing spat with the DPWH chief, Leviste could also see an ethics complaint against him in the lower house. House Committee on Public Accounts Chairman Terry Redon expressed alarm over Leviste's statements and action. The DPWH, Rizal said, may file the complaint against Leviste if it chooses to do so.
Better for the DPWH personnel to basically file the complaint kasi if they really feel aggrieved at the manner by which the files had been obtained, pwedeng yung DPWH leadership can undertake it, di ba? If they actually wanted to honor the memory of Yuse Cabral, na dapat hindi siya ginagamit sa ganito pong tipo ng, I guess, malicious disclosures, no, of government documents. Parang dapat sila ho'y mag-file ng ethics complaint against Congressman Leviste.
Kapatid Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
And we now have on the big story once again, Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste. Good evening to you, Congressman. This will be your opportunity to answer squarely the accusation that you forcibly took those documents.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to give a final interview with your show this year. My New Year's resolution is to make fewer enemies in 2026, but it does not yet take effect tonight. So I vehemently deny that I illegally obtained the files, as I said, because Secretary Vince said on the phone, and there were many other people that overheard the speakerphone conversation, that he authorized Yusek Cabral to give all the files to me in the interest of transparency. And as I said earlier, it is suspect that they're only saying this months after seemingly the public can see they don't want the files released to the public. And they still haven't explained why the files that were handed to the Ombudsman on December 23 were not released to the public. I also want to clarify to your viewers that I was saying publicly since November that I had these files and the DPWH wasn't raising any issue with it then, and that I was also asking for the files to be preserved and for Yusek Cabral to be protected and made a state witness. And it's unfortunate that action wasn't taken then, but I do hope that the truth can come out because many other people also have the files. This is important for viewers to know. It's not just me, so the focus shouldn't be on me. It should be on getting the contents of those files out to the public.
But even Secretary Vince Dizon is denying that account of yours, that he had authorized Yusek Cabral to give you these documents.
Yeah, so the CCTV that they released actually helps show that I was given it because I was just walking through the corridor, actually quite cordially, talking with Yusek Cabral. And I hadn't actually seen that since last night. So it's interesting that they thought that that supported their claim when it in fact supports mine and authenticates that the files that I have in my possession came from her because what I was holding in my hands is what I uploaded on Facebook. And Yusek Cabral was also there when I was in the other room. So the other thing I would add is the claim that they're making that it's either illegally obtained or it's inauthentic are contradictory. So they have to decide. And it seems that the reason why there's a few days gap between each of their responses is they're still trying to get their script right. But again, what the public cares about is not this back and forth between government officials. It's what do these files say that they don't want in the public? And it is a list of proponents of hundreds of billions of pesos of DPWH projects. And it should have nothing wrong on its face that they are proponents of projects, except the allegation is that when you have an insertion, you have a commission. And if you don't, then you should have no problem releasing it to the public.
These files, you know, the he said, she said is really muddling the issue. We want clarity, but it's getting really muddled. Now, there's also a statement from the Ombudsman, this is from Attorney Clavano, that what you turned over to them was not complete.
Yes,
So
like
can you
right-
also, and once and for all, do you have complete files, incomplete files? What are these
ma'am.
files?
You rightly said that they're muddling the issue, I think, deliberately because they want to distract the public's attention from the real story, which is who are the proponents in these files, which are not only in my possession. I only have a copy. Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson has made public statements which reflect that he and I have the same copy. Other media outlets have also ran reports reflecting that they have the copy. And I can share that I've actually talked with people who have gotten copies of the files already from staff of the agencies that have copies of it. So there's probably already 50 or 100 people that have copies of it. And it's eventually going to come out and what I'm saying will be validated. And on the point of what the Ombudsman assistant said, I posted on Facebook the picture of me with the staff of the Ombudsman, whom I invited to my office. They actually said in their maybe 30 years in the Ombudsman, it's the first time that a congressman wanted to meet the Ombudsman and show them evidence that could potentially implicate colleagues because it's not a typical thing. I did more than what they asked for because they were actually there to investigate Congressman Garjola. And I said, hey, here's this file from Yusek Cabral, which I previously also shared with the ICI and said so publicly, that can help all of your cases. And I showed it to the extent that they were interested, but then they left because they just had an assignment which was not as broad as what I was trying to bring, and they didn't get back to me after that. So again, all of these things that are being brought up by the government are both factually incorrect, but also a distraction, because at the end of the day, what people care about is, why don't we investigate the proponents of the insertions in these files?
But Congressman, you've been sharing these files gradually instead of all at once. Why do it day by day instead of fully releasing what you have to the public? And what do you want done with these so-called Cabral files?
That's a very good question. And actually, one of the things I was trying to achieve was to tease out from DPWH the truth, which initially I said I will release it if Secretary Vince will say that I can, because he, in September, told me that he will release it in the interest of transparency. And then it took him maybe 5 days to make a statement denying that he authorized me. I don't know why, though, he didn't immediately respond that. And then he said that he hasn't actually seen it when I emailed it to him on October 1. And I also posted it on my Facebook page. And he still has not commented whether the, for example, 401 billion pesos of allocable budgets to the district representatives of the Philippines are accurate. Because, as I shared, I wanted to give a privilege speech about this in October and November, and many of my colleagues asked me not to, because for some reason, they don't want the public to know that some of us have 3, 4, 5, or even more billion pesos in basic annual budgets on top of extra that we get that brings some budgets to 20 billion pesos per district per year. And the reason then why I think it's been good that we've had the last week and a half to discuss this in public is, slowly the DPWH has admitted that these files are actually authentic. Because, again, it's a big irony that they released this claim that I illegally obtained them after they said that my files are inauthentic. And there are actually some commentators who are saying, why are there dead congressmen on the list? I don't know. You should ask the DPWH people that made the list, because I'm just sharing exactly the file that I was given on September 4. And the reason that I'm saying it's good is I can see on social media that now people who were initially skeptical as to how a neophyte like me got a hold of the files now believe, because of the admission of the DPWH, that I got the files from them. Now, I would like to assure the public that they will eventually see the whole files, because the earlier statement I made is that many people have a copy. In fact, another media outlet is running nightly stories on some of the contents of it. But what I have shared is at least the highlights on the allocable budgets. And unfortunately, it's come at the expense with burning bridges with some people in the House, because now a lot of people are having to answer to their constituents on why they don't see that many billions of products coming into their districts. But one thing that, if I may, ma'am, I would like to share is addition to some of the public statements on one of the proponents in the files that has been made. Again, I am not selectively bringing this up, but it's because it was already publicly mentioned, including by another media outlet, that there is 8 billion pesos of projects under supposed SAP proponent, part of the OP. So there's 8 billion of projects that is tagged with proponent OP, parenthesis, ES/SAP, close parenthesis. And there's a 300 million peso budget in my own district for this proponent. So that's just an example of what I hope the Senate and the House can investigate further in the new year.
The former executive secretary has reacted to this and denied that he had anything to do with this.
Yes, and that's actually why I wanted to clarify this, because he was responding to the allegation that there was a proponent tagged as ES. And that's why I wanted to correct what another media outlet ran that said that it was ES and then SAP sa ilalim ng OP. What it actually says is OP, parenthesis, ES, SAP, which actually means that it's not ES who is the proponent, it's OP.
Office of the President.
I don't want to draw a conclusion on what OP means, but I am just the conveyor of facts, and I hope after I share this actually substantial information on your show that the public can understand why I have to think very carefully about the disclosure of this information. But again, because I'm not the first to bring it up, that I'm sharing it. But it's, I think, quite important for the public to know that this is what the file that I have says, and the same that the files of many other people who have this also says. And maybe it explains why there is a very strong reaction towards my announcement that these files exist and should be made public.
But Congressman, what strikes you as irregular about this list of proponents, no? Because then again, insertions and proponents are not inherently wrong per se, right? It's normal for lawmakers to propose projects, especially during budget season. So is it already fair to suspect that there's collusion between the proponents and the agencies and contractors?
Actually, there's been many people who have been named in media reports being in the list who simply denied that they're actually proponents of the projects. And I think that's a fair response from them, because the denial that the list is true, if not backed up by anything else, means that the list is really invalid in that case. And I therefore find it even more suspicious than that others don't want the list to come out. Maybe the ones who deny in public are the ones who are not guilty, and the ones that are not making any comment about it have something to hide. And I think the best thing at this point is for people to just face the public and explain whether their inclusion in the list is correct or incorrect.
In the end, Congressman, this is your first term. Would you want an overhaul of the system? Because you also allude to the fact that they may be retaliating against you in your district, and your district will not get any funding at all for projects. So in the end, it's the whole system that's flawed, that really rewards patronage.
That definitely, as well as a way to exert leverage on members of the House who vote on all other measures of national importance. And for the good of the country, the allocations should be based on an equation that is automatic every year instead of based on, as you said, patronage. But I guess it is politically unrealistic for the people that make the decisions to then relinquish their power.
But you did say you've already burned your bridges with some of your colleagues there, and an ethics investigation is now maybe in the offing.
Yes, actually, if I can share with you a secret that it's better for them not to know, I enjoy the idea that they will file an ethics case, because then I will be able to air all of Congress's dirty laundry with them in public. But before that, I've already shared one secret of Congress that I also thank your station for reporting, which is that there's a 2 million peso Christmas bonus in Congress this year, up from a previous 1.5 million. And coinciding with votes on the budget in October, there's also a 1.5 million peso bonus on top of our own salary of around 300,000 and monthly operating budget of around 1 million pesos. So in a whole year, a congressman gets maybe around 20 million, but there's a total 18.58 billion peso MOOE fund, of which the majority was increased during the deliberations in the House without any debate, without it even being reflected in the committee report. And I think that there's a lot more things that can be exposed in terms of the use of these internal funds. So to your question, ma'am, I invite my colleagues to give us an opportunity to air all of the dirty laundry of Congress in 2026.
Well, Congressman, did you personally receive that Christmas bonus? Because House Appropriations Chairperson Mika Swansing already denied that any incentive was given to lawmakers to vote on the national budget.
If I can mention this for the first time in public on your show, I started questioning this in October because I was shocked that on the day that we were supposed to vote for the budget was when the 1.5 million pesos was being given out. And they're not saying that you'll get the money if you vote in favor of the budget, but they time it on the same day. Also, maybe because it ensures that there's going to be quorum. And when I saw the checks, I took a picture of them, which I have, and then they started panicking and calling people to call me, please not to share that with the public. And I am just saying this to explain that there's so much secrecy about these allowances. And by the way, maybe I am just taking the opportunity also to say this now because it's December 30, but that this is my response to the question. Because, okay, first, untrue, there are these bonuses. And to then answer the question of, if not this, then should be, then what are the bonuses? Because as I said, there's an 18.58 billion peso a year MOOE fund. And that was actually around 10 point something billion in the National Expenditure Program. Congress increased it by 7.8. So the basic expenses of the House are already covered in the initial budget. We increased it by 7.8, dividing that by 318 congressmen. It's around 24 million pesos per congressman per year. So that alone is probably the bonuses that are paid, or other consultancies that are non-core that are paid by Congress every year.
So the check is still with you, or
It's in the Committee on Accounts because I have said that I will not take it because I disagree with it. But my point is, anyone who disputes that there are bonuses should answer then, where does the 18 billion pesos go? Because there is no breakdown. I have asked the Committee on Accounts to bring me a breakdown, and that's when they started calling people to tell me not to ask about it.
maybe
Because
maybe
it's
another term could be
manipulative.
coined for it, not Christmas bonus, but something else.
Well, I thank Deputy Speaker Ronnie Puno for admitting that there is this MOOE, but he says that it goes to our constituents because there are many people that ask for solicitation for a Christmas party in our districts in Christmas time. But if it's used for legitimate means, my point is simply, why are we not just going to be transparent to the public about it and even give a breakdown of where the 18 billion pesos goes? Because it's being liquidated largely by certification. And I would also add this, the reason why I'm personally invested in exposing this is because a lot of the social media trolls are being funded by MOOE. And I can say this because you can Google it. There's a CARE program where congressmen are given 10 to 100 slots to hire keyboard warriors. But they wouldn't call them keyboard warriors, of course, but they're people who have training seminars in the House. This is all on the internet to be trained on how to defend Congress. And I don't think that it's right that public funds are being used to attack critical government.
One more disclosure that you had made is how the DPWH secretary has insertions in the BCDA, having headed it before. Can you elaborate more on this?
I'm so thankful for you giving me this opportunity to answer that because I think there's a lot of hesitance in the media to seemingly bring up something critical of Secretary Vince is a much better DPWH secretary than his predecessor, of course. But I think that it's good to be consistent. And if we are saying that we're for transparency, then we should disclose our connection, for example, with Congressman Edwin Garjola, who was the subcontractor of the flood control component in the New Clark City River Park, an 11.5 billion total project, New Clark City, that has been flagged by the COA for not having undergone an open bidding. And I posted this on my Facebook page. There are pictures of Secretary Vince doing a site inspection with the Malaysian company who was the general contractor and the Garjola-linked company, Laurel Development Corporation, in New Clark City. So when I just posted suddenly last night that there is a flood control project in BCDA, I didn't give this detail. They denied it. And then I posted the picture of them doing a site inspection on it. And there's been no response. So I'm thankful that you're giving me this opportunity to clarify this. You can check my Facebook page. There is a Garjola flood control contract in BCDA.
Okay, but was it described as a flood control project or a park development?
It's a river park.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Many flood control projects, like almost all in my district, are basically riverside protection.
Okay.
And just to clarify, they're the subcontractor of the Malaysian company that was awarded the contract without a competitive bidding.
Congressman, I just like to ask this of you as well because there is criticism about how your solar company has benefited from, legislated franchise. So
Thank you
this
for
may
responding.
also, boomerang on you.
Yes, actually, it's very important to explain that I actually lost a lot of money on that business. And the company that I sold to Meralco had nothing to do with that business. So the assets of my solar company are to be donated to the people who are in those communities because it was supposed to be like a social impact endeavor. And it ended up being a lesson that it's very hard to do businesses in underserved areas. But I just wanted to clarify then that what I sold to Meralco has nothing in the company that is being referred to in that legislation, and that company that has been referred to is no longer operational.
How do you respond to those questioning your intentions in all the exposés you've been doing, exposing the dealings within Congress, airing the dirty laundry? Some are questioning, ano ba talaga ang motibo ni Congressman Leandro Leviste? How do you respond to that?
Well, actually, the reason why I'm bringing up the MOE issue is because I think that the only people that are expressing opinions like that are people that are being paid by the government using MOE. Because I don't meet ordinary Filipinos who say, I don't want corruption exposed. I don't like politicians who give interviews to share things that I don't know about how government funds are spent. The people that I see on Facebook want to learn more about things that have been hidden from Congress all this time. But on my part, I think the public can plainly see that I am not financially benefiting from what I'm doing now. It's quite a big sacrifice, actually, and even to my own security. But maybe they can see that I enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm also very thankful that I have this opportunity and am not at the mercy of, for example, the House Committee on Appropriations that dangles so-called incentives, as I've said, and was told to me by a House Committee Appropriations staff, the congressman, to not say things like this in interviews. So I'm very blessed to be able to say the truth in an interview.
All right, we thank you for your time. Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste.
Thank you very much.
Now, in other news, today marks the 129th anniversary of the martyrdom of our national hero, Dr. Jose Rizal. President Bongbong Marcos led the main commemorative rites at the Rizal National Monument in Manila. In his message, the president called on Filipinos to draw inspiration from the national hero by upholding patriotism, truth, and responsible citizenship, and urge them to live according to Rizal's principles of choosing compassion over indifference and country over personal interests. He also called on the youth to let Rizal's ideals of integrity and accountability guide their actions in both their public and private lives. In a separate statement, Vice President Sara Duterte imparted her wish for renewed strength and courage to stand up for truth and justice. She said Rizal's legacy represents a continuing struggle for freedom beyond colonial rule, adding that true lasting change could only come from deep study, integrity, and a collective effort from communities and institutions.
Now, we're just going to take a quick break, but still ahead. Inflation and corruption remain top concerns for Filipinos, as shown in a recent Pulse Asia survey. And in that same poll, they also rate the president and vice president based on trustworthiness and performance. Now, we'll break down that survey next. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to the big story. Almost half of Filipinos are critical of the work being done by President Marcos, while his estranged Vice President Sara Duterte enjoys a small majority in approval and trust ratings. Of the 1,200 Filipino adults polled from December 12 to 15 by Pulse Asia, 48% disapprove of the president's performance, while only 34% registered their approval. Mr. Marcos got a 17-point increase in his disapproval ratings in Metro Manila from the last survey in September. As for the vice president, she got an approval rating of 56%, though her disapproval numbers went up by 2 points to 24%. Duterte got a double-digit increase in her approval ratings in the Visayas. The former running mate's trust ratings mirror their job approval numbers, with nearly half of respondents expressing little to no trust in the president. As for the VP, over half of those surveyed still trust her. Pulse Asia President Ronald Holmes tells our sister program Storycon that Mr. Marcos still has a chance to recover from his faltering numbers.
It's a question of the political capital versus your own power.
Yeah.
You have power and you can use that power in order to regain the political capital. The question is, will they do so? Will they use the power that they possess, the authority that they possess, in order to, well, mobilize more support for himself and his administration? That we have to see, which we have not seen over the last more than 3 years.
Meantime, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says that while the president looks at surveys as guide, he remains unbothered by the results. Castro said the chief executive would rather make unpopular but right decisions, as in the case of the corruption scandal, which he himself exposed. Yusek Castro also took another swipe at the Dutertes. She said that despite their popularity, the controversy surrounding the vice president's confidential funds remains unresolved, and that her father's administration supposedly tolerated kickbacks in ghost projects as early as 2020. Now, in the same Pulse Asia survey, controlling prices of goods remains a top concern among Filipinos. That and other so-called gut issues.
Inflation pa rin ang main concern eh. That's about 6 out of 10 Filipinos citing inflation as a main concern. Hindi naman naggumalaw rin yun, no? Compared to, let's say, the previous survey as an urgent concern. Pumapangalawang corruption, no? And there's an insignificant decline, just 3 percentage points. So, but the top 5 concerns are large of the top 5 concerns for our economic. So you have inflation, you have pay, you have jobs, and you have poverty.
Meantime, the executive branch is now conducting a thorough review of the ratified 2026 General Appropriations Act. The palace received a copy of the spending bill yesterday. Executive Secretary Ralph Recto said President Bongbong Marcos and his team are scrutinizing all allocations and provisions to account for changes from the original National Expenditure Program. He added that the review aims to ensure the national budget meets legal requirements and addresses the needs of the Filipino people. The review, according to Recto, is expected to take about a week. Malacanang earlier said the chief executive will sign the 2026 budget on the first week of January. Now at this point, let's bring in Jean Encinas Franco of the UP Political Science Department. Welcome to the Big Story, Professor.
Hi. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Pauline.
All right. Let's zero in first on the series of disclosures by Congressman Leviste, which is now which is being denied by the DPWH and even to a certain extent by the Office of the Ombudsman. What do we make of this maverick congressman who is now telling what it is in Congress, even to the point of disclosing Christmas bonuses?
Yeah, no. Well, of course, we welcome transparency, and accountability, especially during these times. It's just a pity that because of what has transpired, because of he said, she said process that has been going on the past few days, they have become the story rather than, the documents that they're supposed to present to the public. So that's the last thing that we want to happen, because no matter what, we want the truth to come out.
So you're saying it's become more personality driven?
Yes, exactly. And because of the stories revolving around whether these are indeed genuine documents or not, whether these were redacted documents, then we don't want this to happen, given that we want documents that will give us the truth.
Right.
No? Yeah. We want all the investigations to be credible at the end of the day, so that whatever comes out, in January, kung sino man ang makulong, kung sino man ang maaresto, dapat katanggap-tanggap.
But Professor, do you think that Congressman Leandro Leviste is actually onto something? And if yes, how should he handle it?
Well, if he is on to something, I guess, he should somehow calibrate or review what he's been doing, because some other sectors, some people are starting to question his credibility or his motive, regarding the document.
But actually, the situation now is the real source of the documents, or the DPWH, is not being candid either. It's really, the situation is very muddled. Do you?
Exactly. Yeah, muddled is the right word, and it's very unfortunate that this has happened. No, that's why the ombudsman and all the authorities must really expedite these cases so that this is resolved in the soonest possible time. Kasi the more na magtagal, the more that other people will politicize this, no?
Who is emerging as a trustworthy source in this whole investigation? There doesn't seem to be anyone who enjoys trust,
Exactly.
credibility.
Yeah. None.
So,
From the very start, the ICI has been met with a lot of controversy, resignation. Yeah.
so where does the public go? There have been protests, but the protests also, and I'd like to ask you this, doesn't seem to have any real demand. It's very broad. Should the public, or should these organized protests be more specific with what they want the government to do?
The protests have been very specific. They want the government to hold the people, those who are the perpetrators of the flood control corruption scandal, be put to jail. No, they've also
Pero walang deadline.
Such as the political dynasty. Sorry.
Walang time. The timeline is unclear. It seems like I feel, as an observer, that we're just coasting along, and there doesn't seem to be a favorable conclusion in the offing. Anong assessment po ninyo, Professor?
My sense is that the protesters are also waiting for what's going to happen. They thought that, they believe that something's going to happen before Christmas, but it did not happen. So these are the holidays, so they're having a wait-and-see attitude. But I'm pretty sure that they have concrete plans up their sleeves in the coming week, no? And in fairness to them, they've been also very effective in terms of calling Malacanang to task, calling our senators to task, so that they would at least listen to the public pulse and to the demands of the public.
Well, Professor, if we may go to that recent Pulse Asia survey showing that nearly half of Filipinos disapprove of the performance of President Bongbong Marcos, while Vice President Sara Duterte still enjoys small majority approval. What do these numbers tell you, Professor? And how do they compare to previous administrations?
Well, the buck stops at the president. And considering the gravity of the situation and the magnitude of what has happened in the past 4 months, I'm not surprised that these are his ratings, no? Because the country is waiting for his move. The country is waiting whether he will really put to jail people, some people who are close to him, no? Some people who have been implicated in the flood control scandal. So I'm not surprised. Now, with regard to Sara Duterte, well, of course, she has enjoyed high approval ratings from the get-go. And she also has Mindanao and a part of the Visayas who remain loyal to her, mainly also because of ethno-linguistic ties, no? The mga Visayan speaking and those from Mindanao.
But Professor, at the same time, controlling inflation is also the top concern for many Filipinos. It's also where the government gets its lowest approval rating. For President Bongbong Marcos, how damaging is that? That it's a gut issue still affecting the public, the Filipinos? And is there still any viable path for President Marcos to recover in terms of his numbers?
Yeah. That's a very good observation. And I think, because from the very start, the president campaigned on a gut issue. Remember the 20 peso
Bigas.
a kilo price of rice. And that's why people are holding him into account. No, well, there are kadiwa stores, but the distribution is really just limited. And people also want concrete results in terms of lowering of the prices of goods, as the survey said, and also the decent employment, of course.
So, Professor, when people say that their top concerns are inflation, corruption, and even job security, no, are they blaming here the president and not the system?
It's really the president, because that's the that's where they turn to. That's to whom they turn to, no? And that's he's the one who promised them the moon and the stars during the campaign, no? And he's the most visible government official of the land, and that's why they're blaming the president, and we can't blame them, no, for doing this.
Now, if we can move to the live streaming of the BICAM process in the in the budget, what's your assessment? Was there complete transparency about the process, or there's still much to be left?
Yeah. Because even if it was live streamed, there were also statements from prominent legislators indicating that they felt that the process was railroaded, the voting yesterday. So this is the last thing that we want to happen again, no? In the budget process. We want the budget process to be credible and not be seen as being rushed, no? So when you say transparency, it's hindi lang, ipalabas sa TV or sa YouTube, no?
Yeah.
Everything has to be recorded too, no? Lahat ng nag-intervene, lahat ng sinabi, I hope they recorded it, no? I hope there were no small meetings that happened. So we're not sure about that. I hope, walang ganon.
Well, observers say that's what happened, but there were really small meetings that were not recorded.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will have to see. It's still. But would you say that was a good first attempt?
Yeah. Maybe they're taking. Of course, considering the gravity of the situation, they should have made bold steps. But these are baby steps. Maybe they still have to learn the process of being, transparent. Yeah.
Well, finally, Professor, given how turbulent and eventful 2025 was, what is your outlook for 2026?
It's difficult to make an outlook given the fluidity of the situation. But I guess the 2026 is a make or break for the Marcos administration. They really have to show that they've learned a lot from this situation, because I think the flood control scandal is a defining moment, no, in the history of the Marcos administration. People will judge him based on what the administration will do about it.
Well, we thank you for talking to us, political scientist Jean Encinas Franco.
Now moving on to another story, the woman who disappeared a few days before her wedding and became the subject of several days of search is finally reunited with her family. Shera Dewan's older brother.
Kasi nga galing ka sa San Pablo.
Naglakad ka lang?
Naglakad-lakad lang po ako. Pero madaling araw ko po yung nilalakad.
Shera Dewan's older brother held her tight as she arrived in their Quezon City house early this morning. Authorities found Shera in Sison, Pangasinan yesterday, looking distraught and unable to answer how she ended up there. She was also nauseous, not having eaten well while away from home.
Ang kwento naman niya is papunta po siya ng trabaho niya nung mapansin niya, lumapit sa kanya si Miss Shera at nagpapatulong. Binanggit nga daw po niya yung pangalan niya at nung ma-verify po nitong rider na siya nga yung viral na nawawala ng bride-to-be, yun po, tinawagan nila yung number na nakalagay doon. Kaya si Mark po yung nakausap nila. And yun po yung sumunod doon is nai-report naman ni Mark sa CCTV.
Police are now investigating part of Dewan's initial testimony that two men took her when she rode a UV Express to a mall in Commonwealth Avenue on December 10th. I recall that Dewan's family and fiancé, Mark R.J. Reyes, said Shera informed them she was buying shoes for the wedding scheduled for December 14th. Then she disappeared.
Ayun po sa statement po ni Shera, hindi siya sumakay ng bus. Ang sinakyan niya is yung UV Express. Tinutukan daw siya ng kutsilyo, ng isa. Tapos may silang parang ilong niya ng panyo. Doon na daw siya nawala ng nalay. Ako yung sa kwento niya na siya. Nagising na lang siya sa isang madilim na lugar.
As to the question on whether or not the wedding will still push through, Reyes said he wants to give Dewan time to recover first.
Inaya ko muna siya yung talagang, alam niyo po yan, sabihin niya kung anong nangyari, ganyan. So, hinayaan ko siya talagang iiyak niya yung kung mga kailangan niya iiyak. Sir, yung mga na-share niya sa akin, more on, na siya parang makakontribute na siya dun sa investigation ng mga polis So, hindi ko na siya parang maibahagi pa po sa inyo kasi part na nga po siya ng investigation po.
You're watching The Big Story on One News, and up next, we give you a look back at world events that shaped 2025. Keep it here on One News.
Three Israeli hostages have come home after over 470 days in captivity.
I got like 9 million more than anybody else had ever gotten. And they said we lost. And because of that, I said to Melania, what do you think? And she said, you want to do this again?
An Army Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines passenger jet collided about 9 o'clock this evening.
Vatican says that at 7:35 this morning, Pope Francis died.
Standing on the banks of the Guadalupe River, the site of some of the worst damage to come from the floods that ripped through this area on July 4th.
This is Panom Dongrak Hospital in Thailand's Surin province. It was hit yesterday by Cambodian artillery shelling.
Since I know you're watching, turn the volume up.
Finally, for our big picture this evening, it's the retelling of Dr. Jose Rizal's childhood using AI or artificial intelligence.
Jose Protasio Rizal, pero tawagin niyo na lang akong Pepe. Kung nagtataka kayo kung bakit mukha akong galing sa lumang litrato, doon nagsimula ang pagbabago. Hindi pa ako bayani, hindi pa ako martir. Isa pa lang akong bata na natutong mag-isip, magtanong at mangarap. Ako si Pepe. At ito, ang simula ng aking kwento. Darating ngayong Disyembre 30, araw ni Rizal. Pepe, ang batang henyo.
Pepe, ang batang henyo, reimagines our national hero as a child who is curious, intelligent, and assertive. Qualities that the series' creators want to convey to the public. According to Pocholo de Leon Gonzalez, founder of the Voice Masters, Creative Voices, and Creative AI Animation, the series is one way to bring Rizal closer to today's generation using animation, storytelling, and responsible AI. The trailer for Pepe, ang batang henyo, was released today just in time for the commemoration of Rizal's 129th death anniversary. Full animated series will premiere early next year. And that's it for the big story this last Tuesday of 2025. Thank you so much for watching.
We'll be back here tomorrow at 7:30, kapatid. We are One News, all sides, all the time. Have a good night.